The biggest challenge in the returns world are big and bulky returns. And although I've been doing this for as long as I have, there's always somebody with another idea, a great idea. And I'm really honored to bring Georgia Levette up on stage to talk about her ideas and what she's done with her company. Well, you can read the title. So please welcome Georgia Levette.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony, for that great introduction. It's an honor to be introduced by Tony. He has a lot of knowledge about reverse logistics, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. So the title of my talk is Mastering Big and Bulky Returns, but what I really want to talk to you about is how did we learn to master this very hard problem? And really what it comes down to is thinking a different way. So question the no and discover the new. My background in business is technology, marketing, and in 2012, we started Sharetown, and it was a buy, sell, and rent platform. So very similar to Facebook Marketplace as it is now. We were reselling and sharing and renting things in the secondhand market. We had a couple million users. And that, up to that point in 2012, that was kind of, my world. And so that's kind of the history of where Sharetown was to, in the end, picking up big and bulky items. So I'm going to take you on that journey a little bit and show you how we solved this very difficult problem. I love this quote by Henry Ford. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have had said faster horses. Isn't that true when we do, product research or any type of solving something? Sometimes people don't actually know the solution that they're looking for. The other innovation that we've seen through the years is going from the letterpress to the printing press to digital news. Originally how we got news to now today we get push notifications to our cell phones. When I was a young girl, my mother actually worked for the local newspaper. It came out weekly. She was a typist. And every Tuesday night, I would go with her with the proofs and take them to the printer, which was an hour and a half from our house. And we'd wait at the office while they printed everything. And then we would load it in the truck and take it back and leave it for the newspaper boys in the morning. But can you imagine how old that news was, that had been typed a week previously? It's just amazing how we can rethink the way things have done. Just because we've done it a certain way doesn't mean it needs to be done that way. So how did Sharetown actually get into the returns industry? It actually started with a very casual conversation between a couple of friends. My co-founder and I have a friend that worked for a bed-in-the-box mattress company. And it was one of those cutting-edge mattress companies that had this amazing return policy and convinced people to buy a very expensive product without laying on it first, without seeing it, and having it shipped to their door. So this is pretty innovative. I think it was important that they had an innovative marketing strategy to get people to buy these things because they were also open to innovative ways to return. So in this casual conversation, our friend had mentioned he had a problem with returns. They wanted to donate them to charities, but charities were really not equipped to pick them up. And also, they didn't want them to end up in landfills, but a lot of times they were calling junk removal companies because that was their only solution to getting them picked up. So the plan was we were going to test this out. We already had this buy, sell, and trade and renting platform, and so we had local networks nationwide. But I decided I would be the first one to pick up one of these mattresses. So I actually lived in Las Vegas, and I got the first return. Me and my husband went in our old Chevy Tahoe to this customer's house. I didn't know if it actually fit in the Tahoe, but I knew that they came in a box. So I thought there was a chance. So we go and pick up this 145-pound piece of Jell-O and drag it across the driveway and stuff it back in the back of our Tahoe. And I was able to take it home, clean it, resell it within one day. And I thought, oh, this might actually work. We can make money doing this. So now how to scale that, right? You test it, you scale it. I basically called all of my friends, all of my family, all of my old classmates, my teammates, anyone that I knew that trusted me, and told them this really weird thing that I was doing and asked them if they would try it out. And I got enough people to say yes that we were able to scale. And eventually it grew very organically as people tried it and tested it and knew that they could go pick up returns and that they could make a good little side business. They told their friends, and now we put some marketing dollars behind it, but really we grew it organically. Something interesting about our network is that it is really a white-collar gig economy network of contractors. 80% of all of our contractors have college educations. They look like us. They're professionals. They have degrees. They have a 9 to 5. And then on their nights and weekends, they pick up returns. And they are very invested on how those returns are handled, because they not only pick up, they are required to resell that item. And so how that return looks at resale is very important to them. Also, the customer experience is extremely important. They care about the brand because they're representing the brand. If you Google Sharetown and you look at our reviews, we have 4.9 stars out of over 500 reviews. That is really hard to do, and the only reason we have that is because we have selected the right people to go pick up returns. Now, what's interesting is this was not a new problem. This picking up returns has been happening for a long time for big and bulky items, but the other way that they do it is much different. Now, like I said, because my background was technology and marketing, that was the only thing I knew how to solve this problem. We built our own platform. We have our own native app. All the ways I knew how to solve it was from that lens. Had I been in the logistics industry previously, I probably would have solved it differently. So currently, we pick up fitness equipment, couches, even pizza ovens, right? So this translates to, once we cornered the bed-in-the-box market, we're able to go out and solve this problem for other companies. The biggest issue we have is convincing the brands that we know what we're doing. It's so different than what they previously experienced that sometimes this is a hard sell for us. This is the traditional model. We call it the unboxable problem. You can have your original purchaser all the way in California, and they decide to return it. It goes to a distribution center and then to a warehouse, and then maybe to a liquidation center across the country to the final secondary consumer. It is a very long path traveled with many touch points. For Sharetown, currently our average from first customer to second customer is 13 miles. So talk about sustainable, hyper-local, like we really practice what we preach. And then innovation begins where assumptions end. Like my challenge to you is to, how can you innovate what you're currently doing? Just because we've done it this way always doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, or doesn't mean it can't be improved on. What are some ways that we can improve on anything that you're doing? So where we are today, we have over 14, we are nationwide. There is no major city that we do not cover. We have around 1,400 Sharetown reps. We have over 100 partners, 70,000 returns just this year to date, 55 million kilograms of greenhouse gases emissions saved, and over 7 million pounds have been kept out of the landfills.
Okay. Wow. As I said, I've done this for a little while, and I don't think I got to include the fact that I'm the executive director for this Reverse Logistics Association. So it's really a thing. It's a global association with members who are manufacturers and retailers. They're the ones who they make the stuff, they sell the stuff, they have to deal with the returns. And then we have amazing companies that are, we call them third party service providers or solutions partners in this case, who come up with ways to help the retailers and the manufacturers. And Georgia, you already alluded to, and by the way, we are on the website rla.org. You can join the community for free. Just go there and take a look where you can see great ideas and great companies like Sharetown. But you did hit on a really important issue. And prior to RLA, I was at Philips for 25 years and Sony for 5 years. And when you talk about brand protection, Georgia, that is a huge deal to many of the companies. And you offer something different. And we talk about brand protection because, many retailers get allowances nowadays for returns, or they're giving a credit to the consumer, which is another nightmare we won't go into today. But when you get to the big and bulky, dealing with companies like Home Depot on our board and LG and Samsung who have these major appliances, it always happens. Something goes wrong on a delivery, doesn't fit through the door, and it can get seriously dinged. And when it gets seriously dinged, that's when you step in. But talk about how you can provide that brand protection, because I know that the Samsungs and the LGs of the world and the Sonys of the world, they don't want their stuff on Facebook Marketplace for half the price of new, which potentially could happen. So talk about that brand protection aspect, because that's important, Georgia.
Yeah, I think what's important to note is that our Sharetown reps are really brand ambassadors. It's in their best interest to really understand what they're picking up and reselling. So you have this essentially a sales network that cares about your brand and that can speak to it. And they actually give access to people that couldn't afford it brand new. So you actually are creating a whole nother, you know, basically consumer base that are excited. So this happens all the time. In Airbnbs, they will buy from us, an Airbnb will buy a mattress from us, and people will go and sleep on that mattress. And then at the end of their stay, they're like, this is way better than my mattress at home. So they'll lift up the sheets, look at what brand, and then they buy that new.
Right.
That happens all the time, right? So the other thing is you can't go on sharetown.com right now and buy any of our products. We are not to be found, so we don't compete directly with any of our brands.
Right.
Brands don't really want their stuff to end up in a liquidation center, right? They want to be able to protect that brand and have people buy new. But we found a solution where we don't compete with the brand, and that we actually promote the brand.
And so, Georgia, you had a very important map up there of the number of touch points that occur in a return. And your number was low, by the way. The academics, and we love academics, they're in our association, will tell you that on forward supply chain, from factory to an end consumer is an average of maybe 7 touch points. On the reverse side, it averages over 20 touch points. And think about this. Every touch point is a cost factor, and it's a carbon footprint. And you just explained how your average touch point is 2, basically.
Yes.
And you've got the pickup, you've got they take care of it, they renovate it, they refurbish it, they do mop and glow, they do all those amazing things to make it look good, because then they're turning around and reselling it to an individual. So that leads to some important cost reductions that you can talk to. So share a little bit about that when you're talking to the brands and either they approach you or you approach them. What have you been able to show in the way of cost cuts?
Yeah, that's exactly right. First, you're looking like, okay, so then how do we recoup the cost, right? What's our recovery on this? Essentially, all those costs go away. The pickup, you literally just enter in the customer's name and then hand it over to us, and we take care of it. And at any point, you're able to see where we're at in the returns process, if that customer has been contacted, when the pickup date is. On average, customers are contacted within 24 hours and the item is picked up within 5 business days. Um, that has been a huge savings. And then brands can charge for the return cost, the shipping cost, but we actually take care of it, right? And so there's cost savings. There's ways to recover costs, and depending on the brand and the resale of the item, there could be a revenue sharing option as well. So there are ways to make money.
Absolutely. And important points. Uh, Somewhere you probably have a magic calculator that helps a brand understand it's going to cost you this much to take the return.
Yes.
Subtract that, we'll get you something for it, and maybe we'll share that with you if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And it kind of depends on the products and so on, and the brands. But it's incredibly cool. And okay, I've done this a while, and I will say that Georgia introduced me to an incredibly new higher level of liquidation. Those of you who've been around, and I know there's some in the room who've been around with returns for a long time, and in the early days, around the turn of the century, returns basically got liquidated to Bubba. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to slam it, but I live in Georgia, so I can say that, okay? Returns went to, it wasn't even a secondary market. It was really a low level bidders who were buying this stuff cheap, turning it over fast. But you've introduced a whole new level to the brands, whereas you said that your people are brand ambassadors, and they add so much to it. So, this is such an incredibly cool idea, and let's also acknowledge that this is an incredibly innovative idea. Except it's kind of not new, but it's a new twist, and it means something big. Um, so, are you able to talk? How you mentioned a couple of product categories. Furniture is an obvious one. Appliances, obvious. Fitness equipment. Give us an example. You don't have to name brands, but some of the other kind of product categories where this has shown really significant savings for companies that you partner with.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just talk about the fitness equipment. We have a major brand that we work with in fitness equipment, and one of the issues that they were having was that because it was taking them so long to get the item picked up, picking up a 500-pound treadmill is no joke, and finding the person to go pick it up can be an issue. And they were having up to 90 days to get that item picked up, finding the right companies, having people not back out. They told us they'd have someone show up and then say, "I'm not doing that," and leave up to 3 or 4 times. So they weren't able to get their product picked up. So they were feeling pressure to refund the money prior to the product being picked up. When we started doing it for them, we found almost immediately that so many people started canceling their returns because they realized we were actually going to come pick it up, and that they weren't going to because what was happening is once they got their refund and they still had their item, they just canceled the return because they could. So we were able to stop a lot of fraud that was happening, because of the delay of the return. So that cost saving and just stopping fraud is huge. Right?
And along with that, let's keep in mind that generally new products go out in nice packaged boxes, fit on a truck easily. Liftgate drops it down. They bring a pallet in or whatever. But on the other side, your people are having to do the physical inspection.
Yeah.
And that's a benefit as well, right? It's not just eliminating the fraudulent returns, but it's eliminating maybe the illegitimate, because your people are doing more than just picking something up, right?
Yes. They're inspecting it, they're taking pictures of it, they're verifying that there isn't something fraudulent happening, right? They're being trained on how to, and plus we have a proprietary technology that can alert us. So we're able to just help protect the brand, protect the company, make sure that these are legitimate, and really give customers a better experience. I mean, at the end of the day, your customer doesn't separate the brand from that return experience, right? Like, they don't know that we're not that brand coming to pick it up. Even though we introduce ourselves as Sharetown, there's that association. And statistically, I think it's 92% of consumers state that they will re-buy from a brand if the return experience is good. So maybe that product didn't work out for them, but they are 92% more likely to purchase again if that is a good experience. I mean, I personally shop at Costco because I know they'll take anything back, right? I mean, that policy does matter.
Yes, it absolutely does. And certainly when it's e-commerce buying, basically the consumer's one click away from finding another source that might have a better returns policy. That's always been the nightmare of e-commerce. If you make it free and easy to return something, people do. But the other advantage that you have, and this wasn't in here, and by the way, we will also entertain questions from the audience. Again, Georgia here is an industry subject matter expert, so we've got some important things to talk about. The days at Phillips when we took returns back from the big box retailers and others, the nightmare was, and the engineers would beat me up on this, the nightmare was 95% of the returns have no technical failure. There's nothing wrong with them. So you talk about the customer experience, something went wrong for those people. They didn't like it, it didn't hook up with their other stuff, it didn't fit, didn't look good in the room. Whatever it was about Philips products, 95% no fault found. Your people are able to take advantage of that and turn it into something almost as good as new.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have a team. So up to this point, furniture is pretty straightforward, right? So mattresses, they're cleaned, they're sanitized, they're repackaged. The average couch is not a big deal. But when you get into fitness equipment, it's highly technical, a lot of electronics. Once we got into the fitness business, we can pick up anything now, right? Like we actually have a team that helps refurbish and repair those items, technicians, and it's been amazing to see kind of what we're able to do with those items. We take something that the customer was unhappy with, but it still has value because we're able to figure that out where the customer wasn't, right? And then the customer had a bad experience because it just wasn't working. But then it lands at another customer's home and it is working and they're very happy with it. And it becomes a win for everybody involved because customer that returns it feels relief. Okay, I got this returned. And then the new customer, I guess, is amazed, right? They're just excited about having the product. So it's been an interesting journey to kind of go through the highly technical aspect of returns.
Georgia, another benefit that you'd be able to offer the brands as you pick these goods up and you've got so many different locations and people involved, you're tracking the no fault found kind of levels and feeding that back to the brands as well. Is that something that you're able to do for them as part of a benefit that you can offer a brand?
Yeah, so something that the brands find very valuable, I'm sure you understand, is any information we can give back to them, right? So why are they returning these items? Interesting enough, we do collect some data around what are they going to buy next, right? So they return something because it didn't work for them. Well, what is their next purchase going to be? There's a lot of data where we can, for us, currently we just use it internally so that we can give customers a great experience. But there are we are having people interacting with your customers that they feel free to be able to share with us. Absolutely. Information, right? And I think that's been, and they care. Our Sharetown reps actually care.
You said the situation about fitness equipment. I know most of them have monitor screens now and connect to the internet. Mm-hmm. Your people are able to get through most of those and bring them back to life.
Yes, yeah. There's what's interesting when it comes down to it, right? There's actually usually two things wrong. There's a reset button that needs to be pushed, right? Or there's a wire that's misconnected, right? So we have a whole diagnostic process that we can go through. And once you've seen enough of them, it becomes relatively easy. Most consumers just don't want to do it, right? They spend $4,000 on a treadmill. They don't want to fix it.
No, that's very true. And again, that goes back to the no fault found thing. I'm also impressed by Sharetown because you're the very definition of the circular economy. Yeah. This is exactly what it is about. If you don't know, if you haven't heard, it is worse to recycle than anything else than to reuse. Recycling actually, as a cost factor, if you were to recycle these appliances and these other products, it costs more to recycle and turn it into raw materials to do something new than to build something new from scratch. And that's been an unfortunate situation that really was an eye opener. And the other aspect is um, you represent hyper local returns opportunities. And that's been the dreadnought of any retailer or manufacturer, especially the mattress is a good example. But this hyper local, do you find that the brands are understanding this? You're in this world now with us. So
Yeah.
we're not just the dark side.
Yeah.
If we talk circular, we can get brighter.
Yeah.
So does that resonate with the brands you're talking to? Is a solution as do they see the benefit there?
I believe, and some speakers earlier today kind of touched on this. Brands today want to be able to tell a sustainability story. That is just part of consumerism today, right? Is that I have a couple of adult children, and it's been interesting to watch their buying behaviors because they want to thrift. They want to buy things used. That's very important to them. And maybe someday they'll have money to do that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Um, but yeah, I think brands know that there's value that consumers want the sustainability story. They want things to stay within local communities. They don't really have a desire to ship it cross country. It's inefficient. So we've just kind of solved it in a very interesting, out of the box way.
Absolutely. And again, we have a gentleman with the microphone up here. So if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, feel free. Just raise your hand, and Anthony will tell me there's a question out here with the microphone for you. Okay. Anybody out there yet? Okay. We'll move on to some other parts of this discussion. On the a little bit just again about understanding the background, because you are essentially having smart people pick these things up in their Tahoes.
Yeah. So that when we first had the discussion, you're like, so someone's, because I was talking about the gig economy, right? Or white collar, you're like, so they come in their Prius. No, we don't have Priuses. So our rep network, they're all background checked, credit checked, trained, and they have to have the proper vehicle, right? Proper vehicle, insurance, all of the things to make sure that it protects us, protects the brand, protects the rep. We have very strict standards, and they are, like I said, 80% are college educated. Like they really are like you and me. It's like having a friend come over and do your return.
And on the logistics side, since they're taking it to their own place, that's also the point of delivery. They're not utilizing multiple logistics services at all. They are the pickup and the delivery service.
Yeah, they're the pickup, the storage, the refurbish, the delivery service. So every time when they pick it up and when they're refurbishing it and when they're delivering it, they really care about that item.
And Georgia, that's part of the secret sauce, of course, of what your company is doing. But you can show a brand these calculations and the cost savings there.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you gone as far as being able to show them a carbon footprint reduction?
Yeah. So currently we're working on a calculator that we're going to have on our website so that anybody can basically calculate what it is. It's actually very fascinating, and if you talk to us, we actually can just show it to you. But yeah.
And by the way, the carbon calculator that DHL posts on their website is an interesting one to borrow from. And I'm sorry, but I'm very famous for borrowing any great ideas that are out there. I'm going for it. Yeah. And rather than create something new, and it's important because today there's not a good standard for carbon footprint measurement or ESG measurements. Yeah. And that's important because I'm fortunate to say we have a webinar coming up where there's going to be talking about ESG standards reporting templates. Yeah. We have to get there. Yeah. The challenge is your people are helping one end that might not be as visible for the brand to show a savings.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's interesting is the way that we show it is basically we save 98% of that, almost 99, right? Because of how hyperlocal we are, and we're not using diesel trucks. We might not be a Prius, but what we use is, is doing something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a lot shorter trips. You
Yes.
point out 15 miles on average.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a brand out there in the furniture space that could say that they're averaging 15 miles for a pickup or delivery.
13, but okay.
13. Oh, less than 15.
Yeah,
Good.
less than 15.
Better to say it that way.
Yeah.
Avitas, who spoke about ESG earlier today, has a question, and the microphone is there. All right, go ahead, Avitas.
So Georgia, thank you. Very fascinating, and I know how passionate Tony is about this, and you can tell he's really excited about this conversation. Help me understand the model a little better, though. The one thing I'm not too clear on is I can see where, the brand will kind of be where you're getting that customer one from.
Yes.
How do you get customer two if there is no website that you're setting up that competes? Who gets you customer two?
Yeah.
And you said the turnaround's pretty quick, so when your rep goes and picks it up, do they already know who customer two is, or do they actually hold on to it for a while?
Yeah,
Help me understand that.
so the person that is picking it up is also the salesperson. So all of the sales happen through secondary markets. So there is no direct, it's person to person, peer to peer selling. So there is no Sharetown. We're not selling it for the individual. The individual is then responsible for the resale of that item.
I think Avitas is alluding to the brand. Let's say it's, let's stay away from names. I was thinking Peloton bikes, but let's maybe not say that out loud. The brand sold it to the first consumer.
Yeah.
Your people pick it up as a return. It's being sold to a second consumer.
And that person that picks it up is the salesperson. They are responsible for that.
But does that second consumer then become visible to the brand? Like, is there any so warranty is ended?
We sell without warranty. Sharetown takes ownership of the item at time of pickup. The brand is no longer responsible for refurbishment, warranty, anything that happens with that. We actually sell an extended warranty on our fitness equipment independently to help with the sale of it, but we provide that. We provide any fixing that needs to happen, right? Basically, the brand can just be like, okay, I'm done with that. I don't have to worry about that next consumer.
And Avitas, to your point on that, it removes that warranty cost from the pile of money that they save for these things. So that's an interesting aspect. Although the flip side, Avitas and anyone else, is they're not keeping track of that second consumer. Although in the case of these high-end fitness equipment, those people are logging in as a new customer anyways.
Yes, so they're buying the membership.
You're right.
They're not going to use the product without having the membership to use the product.
So that begs the obvious follow-up question. It's clear now where your salesperson is making money, why it makes sense for them.
Yeah.
Where do you all make your money to make sense for you guys?
Yeah, so we make our money on the sell as well. So our rep, when they sell it, that is at the point that we make our money.
I think the name of the organization here might imply something going on in Sharetown.
Yeah.
For all
There's some sharing going on.
There's a little bit of sharing going on.
Yeah.
Right. Good, important, good question.
Yeah, and so we don't charge the brands in most cases to do the pickup. So that cost saving is really at zero cost to the brand. Normally, I won't say that exclusively. There are a few that pay us because of certain situations, but generally, there is someone back there.
There's a little bit of secret sauce involved, folks. We can't give it all away, but
we do have a booth if you want to talk to someone.
There you go. Exactly. Sharetown is in the expo hall. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Honor from Honeywell. Just a quick question. Second consumer or buyer, how do they find the products, and how do they bid, or how do they find their customers?
Yeah.
That's one question. Second one is, does the second consumer have a right to just refuse at the end of the transaction when your seller picks it up from the first consumer, brings that to the second one, and then that consumer says, oh, you know what? I didn't see it. I don't want it anymore. How does that happen, or what happens there?
Good question about your returns policy.
Yeah. So currently, we sell everything on secondhand marketplaces, right? Like I mentioned before, like through Airbnbs. It's not through a website. It's not direct. This our it's a sales network. The people that are picking up truly are the salespeople, and they are selling peer to peer. So that could be Craigslist, right? Um, but our return policy currently, it's like you just went to a yard sale. Do you take it back to that person and say, I don't want it anymore? If they show up to so the thing is, these are really good salespeople. They want the person to be happy at the end of the day. So if they show up with the item and the person is like, well, this isn't what I expected, then they don't sell it to them, right? It's just like a normal transaction of, peer to peer selling. So our return policy is once they purchase it, there's no returns, no warranties, except for fitness equipment. We do offer a warranty.
The secondary market, folks, is growing tremendously. Um, it is the biggest growing marketplace. We have one of our academics, Dr. Zach Rogers, who talks about it typically once a year to our community about it's growing faster than the primary market because there are so many different channels here to do this. You mentioned the first mattress you picked up in a Tahoe and you sold it in one day, and you're like, this is a great way to make a little extra money on the side. I know, again, it's secret sauce, but I'm guessing that most of your jobbers are selling this stuff pretty fast.
Yeah.
And not getting a lot of complaints or returns, or they wouldn't be able to continue doing it.
Yeah. Well, so the way I sold my first one is I actually sent out a message to all of my friends and said, I have this item. Is anyone interested in it? And I had 10 people respond to me. So I had my own network of people. What's interesting is how many repeat buyers we get because people know we have stuff. In the secondary marketplace, like secondhand, what I find interesting is there's a lot of people that just can't buy those things new. That's just not in their budget. So you really are getting access to a whole different. It's not people that we're not taking customers away from the brand because it's literally people that can't look at it new. They would love it. They would love to get that item, but they can only do it at a discount. There's some people that would never buy something used. So that crossover of us actually taking any of the market share from the brand,
Right.
it's so small that it doesn't make sense to worry about, really.
No, and George's comments are alluding to the fact that the expectations of the consumer in the secondary market are not as high. You buy an appliance at a Home Depot or Lowe's and it's delivered, if it's not in mint condition, you're not happy. But if you're on the secondary market and there's a slight blemish where it's against the wall anyways, but you're getting such a great value that it really works in that secondary market, that the expectations are different. Hence the success of retailers like Ollie's Bargain Outlet, Bargain Hunt, dirt cheap stores. People go into those places, they buy a lot of stuff. They don't have that same level of expectation, again, if they go into Macy's or Dillard's or Home Depot with the same level. So, it's clearly a strong growing market, and this is a very creative, innovative way of going at it. Admire everything you're doing for that. Any last minute questions? I think we got about a minute and a half left of this session, and there's a couple more sessions after this. There's a keynote coming up. There's a reception next to the pool side a little bit later for those of you who are adventurous and want to show up in a swimming suit. I think you can get away with it here. But in any event, if there's no other further questions, I want to really have a round of applause for Georgia Levitt and Sharetown. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.